Our next speaker is Larissa Collins from FERA UK, and she will talk about a commercial scouting service. Larissa, it's up to you.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to speak. To follow on from that conversation, actually, I think growers are now in a position where there are fewer insecticides which are permitted to be used and fewer active ingredients. So they are being now forced into a position where they have to monitor in a lot of cases because they can't just, they run out of insecticide applications that are permitted if they don't monitor. So they can't just apply insecticides prophylactically anymore because it's not possible. We just don't have enough permitted sprays, and we've seen that particularly in the carrot growing industry in the UK, that they used to spray prophylactically, and now they don't have enough permitted sprays to do that to cover the whole season. So they have to base it on monitoring, which is, I think, a huge step in the right direction. But there are a lot of other crops where that doesn't happen yet. Yes, I think monitoring is absolutely necessary for integrated pest management. It's not possible to do integrated pest management without monitoring. So I'll start my presentation. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about FERA Science Limited to start with, because probably you haven't heard of us. Our mission is to support and develop a sustainable food chain, a healthy natural environment, and to protect the global community from biological and chemical risks. We've been going in one form or another for over 100 years. We are a joint public-private partnership, so we are 25% owned by our government department, which is DEFRA, and for the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, and 25% owned by Capita. Sorry, 75% owned by Capita. That is about to change. We should be moving to a new owner within the next few months. Don't know who that's going to be yet. I've lost my slide thing. Right, there we go. So our science priorities are crop health, food integrity, next generation diagnostics, so molecular diagnostics, and sustainable agri-food systems. So I followed the guidelines on the description of this talk, so I'll give the technical description of the service that we're offering first. So it's aphid monitoring, and I'm going to talk mostly about seed potatoes. And the reason for monitoring seed potatoes is to reduce the impact of aphid-transmitted viruses on the crop. So that in the bottom right-hand corner is an example of a potato virus A infected tuber. So potato viruses are a serious threat to high-grade seed potato production because even low levels of virus can cause a crop to be downgraded. There's a grading system for seed potatoes, so every time there's some more virus there, that crop is downgraded and the financial value to the grower is a lot less. And if it goes from a high grade to a wear grade or even an animal feed grade, if it's so bad, then that's a huge loss. It's hundreds of thousands of pounds sterling. But not all aphid species transmit virus to crops, and those that do transmit do so with varying levels of efficiency, and different aphid species transmit different viruses with different levels of efficiency. Mysis persicae being the most efficient virus vector. But large numbers of less efficient vectors, such as willow carrot aphid, you can see the recent population graph on the right there. So if there's a lot of less efficient vectors, they can also give you the same or greater virus pressure in a crop. Also, some aphids will colonize potato plants and others won't. So it's very important to understand which species are there, which species are arriving in a potato crop. And by identifying and counting the aphids, we can provide information on whether the crop is at risk from virus spread and colonization by aphids. Okay, so It's also important from a perspective of combating insecticide resistance, because some of the aphid virus vectors, peach potato aphid, willow carrot aphid, and grain aphid, are resistant to pyrethroid insecticides. So applying pyrethroids in situations where those are a problem will make the situation worse. It will cost the grower money, and the insecticide won't do anything, but it will also put more pressure for development of insecticide resistance on those species, so it will never diminish. So the way this works is that we send people out an aphid monitoring kit, it's a very simple kit. It's a yellow water trap, or pan trap they're sometimes called. So the grower sets this up, puts some water in there, 1 drop of detergent, so washing up liquid. Then after a week, they strain the contents through a piece of muslin, put it in a pot and send it back to us in a plastic envelope. Then we look at the sample under the microscope, and manually, we don't have another way of doing this yet, so it relies on a person sitting there identifying aphids and counting them. So we send results to growers and agronomists the same day that we receive samples, so we have a very fast turnaround on this. The results are also uploaded to our website twice daily, and people can subscribe to early warning emails and text messages. So when Mysis persicae is first reported in their region, when a threshold number of Mysis persicae in a trap is reached, and they can also, when there's a, I've missed here, there's also when there's a high virus pressure, they can sign up for alerts. And they can also subscribe to weekly regional summaries on the website and by email as well. And this is showing the website. So this is what people who are subscribing to the service can log in and see. So there's the map of Great Britain in the middle. I say Great Britain because it doesn't include Northern Ireland. They have their own separate system. And the red, amber and green traffic light system for high virus pressure, moderate or low, and that was put together in collaboration with the potato industry and agronomists, so they can understand what it means for them and what they need to do. They can zoom in on a region, so they can zoom in on one region and see what's going on, because sometimes within a region there's quite a lot of variation depending on field characteristics. They can sign up for aphid alerts, and there are links to other information as well about aphids and virus transmission. And it's also possible to compare between years, so you can slide back between the same date on different years to see what the situation was in previous years as well. And this is what the individual growers see when they get results. So they see the list of aphid species. The aphid PVY index is an index of how good that species is at transmitting virus. And then along the bottom, they have the cumulative virus index for that trap in that field. So they can also zoom in further, and they can see virus pressure by region. So you can see there's quite a difference between, if you look at the y-axis on the top and bottom graphs, so this is virus pressure. So on the top graph, it only goes up to 20, on the bottom graph, it goes up to 200. So that's an example of the differences between different regions in GB that we see in virus pressure. And again, you can compare the current year. We're just starting for 2023, so the current year, the previous year, and the average for all years going back to 2004. So they can get an idea of what they're seeing in the field and how that then relates through in the crop to what they find in terms of virus incidence in the crop when it's harvested. Okay, so the decisions that growers make based on the results are whether or not to spray insecticides, and this can have economic and environmental benefits. And they also decide what to spray, so depending on the type of aphid species present, because if they're allowed to have a couple of sprays of something that kills colonizing aphids, then they'll keep those for those particular situations. They also decide, with seed potatoes, when the haulms are burned down at the end of the season, it's possible to decide to destroy those haulms earlier than they would normally do if virus pressure is high. So that can reduce virus incidence as well. So I thought, just in terms of pricing, this is how we're pricing this year. So for the whole package for 10 samples through the season, that covers 10 weeks of the growing season, plus the trap, plus all of the reports and access to the website, it's £500, so €576. If people only want to access the data, we charge the same because we're trying to encourage people to create data and share data. It doesn't work if people aren't creating and sharing data, which I think is quite interesting given our new business model, actually, which I'll come on to. Okay, so our value proposition and value network. This is available as a service and it's operated by FERA. And we actually run this in additional crops to seed potatoes as well. So wheat, barley, oilseed rape, carrots, parsnips, salads, and watercress. And concerns in other crops are virus transmission, direct damage, or reputation with supermarkets and customers. For example, people finding aphids in bagged salads. That results in customer complaints back to supermarkets. And we identify specific lists of species for each crop type. And we sometimes include other pests and vectors as well as aphids. And for some customers, they do request identification of beneficial insects such as ladybirds and hoverflies. Although most don't. For seed potatoes, that's it's less relevant. And if anyone's interested, why I can have a conversation about that. So the advantages that we're claiming for this are for individual growers and for agronomists, and that overarching network effect is actually very important because the service absolutely relies on the willingness of people to share data with each other. The financial and environmental benefits, we know that there's a reduced yield due to aphid-transmitted potato viruses of about 170 kilograms per hectare for PVY and 112 kilograms per hectare for PVA. In 2011, there was a cost-benefit analysis done by AHDB Potatoes, and that concluded that if the seed potato industry based their insecticide applications on the results of aphid monitoring, it would save the industry £440,000 every year. And in reality, this saving will have increased in real terms since then. That's over 10 years ago. And will also have increased with the increase in insecticide resistance that we see as well. We provide information to help customers assess the risk of virus transmission and considering the best time to destroy the haulms. So it maximises the yield and increases the health of the seed potatoes. And again, this is something that increasing the health of the seed potatoes, that's something that the whole industry is concerned about, not just those individual growers. And we provide information for decision making on application of insecticides. So the whole thing really also enables the customer to provide a full record of integrated pest management methods and potential risk of virus transmission. We also provide the customer with information on the potential quality of home saved seed. And the knock-on effect of that is to increase levels of natural predators. Yes? Hello?
2 minutes, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, it also increases the levels of natural predators, parasitoids, and other beneficial insects. I'll talk fast. Next slide. Okay, so network of actors. This is huge. I thought about doing a diagram, but it was so complicated. So agronomists participate to give better advice to growers, to protect their reputation, which is important as well, and to gain a financial revenue for giving advice and running the service. Growers participate to gain information to make better agronomic decisions about control of viruses in seed potatoes. End users, so we're potato growers, they actually put pressure on seed potato growers and government regulators to ensure low levels of virus in seed potato stocks. The Scottish Government policy and their science, agricultural science department called SASA. Seed potatoes are a big industry in Scotland, worth about €12.65 million, and there's a significant public lobby to protect the industry. And the drivers are economic, reputational, and also national pride in having a virus-free or certainly low-virus seed potato product, which is exported as well. Grower groups and trade associations influence the industry in promoting the service. We also have industry sponsors, and technically FERA science is involved. Obviously, it ties in with our mission, and also we gain financial revenue in running the service. So contributions. Agronomists provide technical information, so they interpret results for growers and base advice on the results. They obviously have to take in the whole system, so they will be combining this advice with everything else that they're seeing for that crop. Growers provide human resources in terms of time for sample collection and financial contribution by purchasing the service. End users, the ware potato growers, they contributed financially to development of the system via levy payments to AHDB. So for every tonne of potatoes that's sold, they have to pay a contribution towards research and development, marketing, etc., although that has gone now. Scottish Government funded some of the monitoring in 2022 and still provides networking and dissemination of results more broadly in the Scottish seed potato industry. Grower groups and trade associations, they contributed political lobbying to set the system up and keep it running. They also engaged with the seed potato industry, and this was particularly important when AHDB Potatoes, who sponsored the setup of this, was disbanded. FERA provides technical expertise, so entomology, so virus transmission research, identification, interpretation, but also really important to this is information technology, including website and app development. And actually social media as well has become more important recently. And then AHDB contribute networking and ensuring value for money for the potato industry. So direct gains are seed potato growers protects the quality and value of the crop and the reputation of the industry. Ware growers benefit from increased quality and yield by reduced virus infection in their follow-on crop. Agronomists, it's their reputation and financial income. Reduced insecticide resistance pressure, we all gain from that. And protection of the environment from unnecessary insecticide applications, we all gain from that as well. Indirect gains are raising the profile of the industry and the challenges they face with consumers and government. Encourages networking within the industry and with government and technical experts. Contributes to increasing populations of beneficial insects and development of aphid monitoring in other crops as well. Oh, I have to talk even faster. So oops, I've skipped one. So contextual factors, our industry recognised an increasing issue with virus in seed potato crops. And AHDB Potatoes brought together industry representatives, agronomists and technical experts. Seed potatoes are an easy one to make an argument for funding something like this because it's a high value crop. So there's potential for high economic losses. And in recent years, we have seen certain years where we have had very high economic losses due to virus. Withdrawal of insecticides recently means that applications have to be targeted more efficiently. We have development of insecticide resistance. We also have changing weather patterns, which means that variations in aphid populations and flight times are more difficult to predict, but there is a general upward trend in virus vectoring aphids. Oops, I've gone past one. So we also have turning point. So launch of the first website in 2004 was a success. So this has been going for 20 years nearly. The modernisation and relaunch of the website at some point, I think around 2018, I can't remember exactly when. And then there was development of sample tracking and aphid recording web app system linked directly to our database and website, which really speeded up our lab processing time, and we funded that internally. The disbandment of AHDB potatoes in early 2022 could have led to really the reduction of this service and cancellation of the service effectively. But we put a lot of work into working with the seed potato industry to launch it as a commercial service in 2022, and that was a success, thankfully. Scottish Government funded a network of traps in Scotland in 2022 as well. Scottish Government then has had its funding cut for 2023, and that could then have led to reduced service in Scotland. Then there were various discussions with groups. Seed Potato Organisation is a new group that was set up, and that was one of them. Then Albert Bartlett Limited offered to sponsor 45 traps in Scotland, which so that's a success. And SPO are also sponsoring some traps as well as growers funding their own traps. One downside of this is that up until 2022, the website was open access, so everyone could benefit from seeing the aphid numbers. But only the data from Scotland was open access in 2022. In 2023, none of it is going to be open access. And that means that some of the wider benefit to small-scale growers and to society through open data sharing is lost. So last one. Okay, so the major obstacles we encountered, and still encountering actually, is funding. It's uncertain where funding is going to come from one year to the next. So launching this as a commercial service actually could work better in that respect, in that we're not dealing with organisations who are struggling for funding themselves. So there's always uncertainty for government or AHDB around paying for something which may have run as a commercial service, but at the same time, industry wanted it to be publicly funded, or at least funded from their levy payments, because the benefits are much more widely felt than just to individuals running traps or even just to the seed potato industry. We haven't really had any debate other than around funding, and today funding is still obviously something that is uncertain. And that causes an issue because the service relies on staff expertise, and it takes about 3 years to train someone to a high enough standard to identify aphids quickly enough to make the service economically viable for us to run. There isn't yet a molecular method which can provide qualitative as well as quantitative data, certainly not as quickly as people can visually identify aphids. And if the service reduces and we lose staff expertise, it will take time to build that up again. We have also looked into visual imaging, and so far hasn't been hugely successful. But I think visual imaging in combination with molecular testing could be the way forward, actually. I think that would mean that we could reduce the time taken and still produce results quickly, but it would have to be a high throughput, fast turnaround system still, because that's really important to the end users of this, is that they get the results very quickly. And this is the team. These are the aphid identifiers, and there are contact details on there. If you want to ask me any questions later, or if you want to know anything else about this, you're very welcome to get in touch.
Okay, thank you, Larissa. Just in time. Do we have one question or? No, I think it's fine, Larissa. Thank you.
There is one small actually in the chat. Okay. It's more like a curiosity question from Pierre Franck, and he's asking about an aphid tower in the UK. And he's wondering whether it still exists, the AgriAphid network, the aphid tower.
Oh, yes, the high-level suction traps.
Yeah.
These are run by Rothamsted Research, and they I think there's about 12 of them spaced around the country. So they provide information on aphids migrating at higher levels, higher altitudes. So the yellow water traps provide information about what's actually moving around in the field at ground level or at crop level, and they do give you different types of information. So where an agronomist, is really interested, we suggest that they look at both sets of results so they can get a bigger picture of what's happening. But there are some interesting discrepancies between what you see in the high-level suction traps, so the towers, and what you see in the yellow water traps at field level. So particularly with Mysis persicae, in the north of the UK, you see pretty much similar numbers in high-level suction traps and the water traps in the field. They tend to be quite similar for traps that are close to each other. But when you move further south down the country, you see 1,000 times more Mysis persicae in the yellow water traps than you do in a nearby suction trap. And we think it's because they are multiplying up more at ground level. They don't have to fly around, so they're not flying around at a high level and being found high up. So they're two different sources of information that tell you different things.
All right. Thank you so much, Larissa. Thank you for
It's all right,
this
you're
talk.
welcome. Thank you.